rickety bus sputtered its last cough, finally succumbing to the relentless incline of the mountain road. Sarah and I tumbled out, backpacks groaning on our shoulders, blinking away the dust and diesel fumes. We'd been warned about public transport in this remote corner of Europe, but seeing was believing. Still, the view that greeted us wiped away any lingering annoyance. Nestled in a verdant valley, seemingly untouched by the modern world, lay a village straight out of a fairy tale. A smattering of stone houses with brightly colored window boxes clung to the hillside, smoke curling from chimneys like wisps of dreams. The sun, about to dip below the mountain peaks, cast a golden glow over the scene, making it picture perfect. Wow, Sarah breathed, her backpack slipping a little lower on her shoulder. This place is incredible. Did they even invent cars here? I chuckled, slinging my backpack back up. Probably not. But who needs a car with scenery like this? We hoisted our packs and started down the narrow cobblestone path leading into the village. The air was crisp and clean, scented with wood smoke and something herbal, almost minty. We were the only outsiders, the only ones with backpacks and bewildered smiles plastered on our faces. The villagers, mostly elderly folks in weathered clothes, greeted us with an unsettling mix of friendliness and silence. They'd offer a shy nod, a hesitant smile, then mutter something amongst themselves, their voices little more than a rustling of leaves. It was unnerving, like a scene from a silent film playing on fast forward. A young girl, no older than 5, skipped past us, her bright red dress a splash of color against the muted tones of the village. She glanced at us, her eyes wide and curious, then whispered something urgent to a nearby woman. The woman, her face lined with worry, scooped the girl up and hurried away. We exchanged a confused look. We found a quaint little inn nestled in the heart of the village, the sign above the door creaking ominously in the slight breeze. The innkeeper, a wizened old man with eyes like polished obsidian, greeted us with the same silent nod and nervous smile. He showed us to a simple room with a single, flower-patterned bed and a view that rivaled any postcard. That night, after a delicious meal of locally sourced stew and crusty bread, we sat outside the inn, sipping on something warm and slightly sweet that the innkeeper had called moonlight tea. The village was cloaked in darkness, the only light coming from the few flickering oil lamps lining the cobblestone streets. The silence was absolute, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl. This place is strange, Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. It's like everyone's holding their breath. Maybe they're just shy, I offered, but my own voice sounded hollow in the stillness. It's a beautiful place, though. Different. Peaceful. We finished our tea in a tense silence, the unease gnawing at the edges of my comfort. The next day, we decided to explore the village, hoping to understand its peculiarities. We passed a quaint bakery with pastries displayed in the window, each one a work of art. The baker, a plump woman with flour dusted across her apron, smiled at us but said nothing. We tried a local shop selling hand-carved wooden figurines, but the shopkeeper just shook his head and mumbled something unintelligible. As we rounded a corner, we stumbled upon a sight that sent chills down my spine. Tucked away at the end of a narrow alleyway stood a magnificent yet abandoned church. Its stained glass windows, obscured by dust and cobwebs, shimmered with an eerie iridescence in the afternoon sunlight. The heavy wooden door was chained shut, but a gap at the bottom offered a glimpse of the darkness within. "Let's check it out," Sarah said, her curiosity sparked. We knelt down, peering through the gap. The interior of the church was a cavernous space, dusty and shrouded in semi-darkness. The only light came from a single shaft streaming through a high window, illuminating a single object, a large, ornately carved confessional booth. An inscription above the doorway, written in a language we didn't recognize, sent a shiver down my spine. The urge to investigate warred with a creeping sense of foreboding. Sarah, ever the adventurous one, pushed aside my lingering hesitation. "Come on, David," she whispered, her eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "It can't hurt to take a peek, can it?" I couldn't argue with the logic, even though every instinct screamed at me to turn back. With a sigh, I followed her, squeezing through the gap in the doorway. Musty air, thick with the scent of decay and incense, filled my nostrils. The wooden floorboards creaked ominously beneath our weight as we tiptoed towards the confessional. The booth was a masterpiece of craftsmanship, its dark wood intricately carved with scenes from some forgotten story. A heavy wooden door with a single ornate latch stood closed, concealing the confessional itself. A morbid fascination drew me closer. I reached out, tracing the intricate carvings with my fingertips. They were cool to the touch, and the wood felt strangely aged, almost as if it had absorbed the stories whispered within these walls for centuries. "There's something written here," Sarah gasped, pointing to a faded inscription on the latch. We knelt down, straining to read the inscription in the dim light. "Those who seek absolution," it read in a language that felt oddly familiar, "must confess their deepest sins." A shiver ran down my spine. The inscription felt more like a challenge than an invitation. Sarah, however, seemed undeterred. Her eyes gleamed with a mischievous glint. "Truth or dare?" she asked, a playful smile on her lips. I rolled my eyes, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling creeping over me. "You know I hate dares." "Come on, David," she pleaded. "It'll be fun. Like a scene from a movie." I hesitated, debating whether to indulge her adventurous spirit or listen to my gut feeling. The silence of the church seemed to press down on me, suffocating. In the end, the need to keep Sarah safe from her own curiosity won out. "Fine," I sighed. "Dare?" A triumphant grin spread across her face. "I dare you to confess a sin." I laughed nervously. "But I haven't done anything wrong." "Everyone has secrets, David," she countered, her voice taking on a strange seriousness. "Even small ones." My mind raced, searching for a harmless confession. Finally, a memory surfaced. All right, I conceded. When I was 10, I accidentally broke Mom's favorite vase." Sarah burst out laughing. "That's it? That's your darkest sin?" I chuckled, relieved to see the tension dissipate. But before I could respond, a gust of icy wind swept through the church, extinguishing the single shaft of sunlight. The room plunged into darkness, the only sound our ragged breaths echoing in the stillness. Panic clawed at my throat. "Sarah?" I called out, my voice trembling. Silence. I fumbled for my phone, desperately trying to switch on the flashlight. The faint glow revealed Sarah kneeling in front of the confessional, her eyes tightly shut. "Sarah, what are you doing?" I hissed, a cold dread slithering down my spine. She didn't respond. A long moment of agonizing silence stretched between us, broken only by the sound of the latch on the confessional clicking open. "Come in, child," a raspy voice whispered from within. "Let us cleanse your soul." Sarah rose, her face pale and drawn, and stepped inside the confessional. "Sarah!" I cried out, lunging towards her. But an unseen force slammed the door shut before I could reach her. I slammed my fist against the heavy wood, screaming her name, but there was no answer. Only the chilling whisper from within echoed through the darkness, growing louder, more insistent, beckoning me closer. "Come, child. We all have secrets that need to be cleansed." I backed away, heart thundering in my chest. The darkness felt suffocating, pressing in on me from all sides. I had to get out of there, get help. But as I turned to flee, the inscription on the latch seemed to burn into my vision. "Those who seek absolution must confess their deepest sins." My deepest sin. The one I'd buried deep, the one that threatened to consume me. Could this be a twisted test? Was this the only way to save Sarah? My heart ached, the choice a brutal one. Sarah, my Sarah, might be forever tainted by the entity's touch, but she was still here, a version of her. The alternative, leaving her behind. It was a gaping maw of despair I couldn't face. "We leave together," I declared, my voice hoarse but resolute. A low growl resonated from within the confessional. The entity, weakened but enraged, wasn't ready to relinquish its hold. Shadows danced on the walls, writhing and twisting in a grotesque parody of a human figure. Taking Sarah's hand, I remembered the old woman's words. The darkness couldn't hold onto both. Maybe if we fought back together, not with confessions, but with defiance, we could break its hold. "Look at me, Sarah," I yelled, grabbing her shoulders and shaking her gently. "It's me, David. Remember us. Remember everything we shared." A flicker of recognition briefly sparked in her eyes, a tear rolling down her cheek. It was a lifeline, a fragile connection to the woman I loved. Together, we faced the confessional, channeling our love, our memories, the hikes we'd taken, the inside jokes, the dreams we shared. We poured these memories into a radiant wave of defiance, a testament to the strength of our bond. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in a sound that seemed to tear at the fabric of reality. The room grew colder, the air thick with the stench of burning sulfur. Sarah clutched me tighter, her vacant smile fading. The final struggle was a blur. The room spun, light flickered, and the air crackled with unseen energy. Then, with a deafening boom, the entity erupted from the confessional, a grotesque mass of writhing darkness. It shrieked once, a sound that promised oblivion. Before being sucked back into the carved wooden booth, the church plunged into darkness. Silence descended, heavy and oppressive. When my vision finally adjusted, I saw Sarah, her eyes clear, fear etched on her face. She looked at me, a questioning look in her eyes, then slowly a smile bloomed, a genuine, familiar smile. Relief washed over me so powerful it felt like I could fly. We stumbled out of the church, the first rays of dawn painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. The village seemed different somehow, less shrouded in secrecy. Maybe it was the knowledge we shared, or maybe the villagers, sensing the entity's defeat, finally lifted their veil of silence. We left the village that day, forever changed by our ordeal. The whispers of the entity still echoed in our nightmares, a constant reminder of the darkness we faced. Sarah, though still haunted by the experience, bore the mark in a quiet stoicism. We knew the darkness wouldn't stay banished forever, but for now, we had each other, and the shared memory of love's defiance in the face of ultimate horror.